So I'm watching Jimmy Dore on YouTube, and I have to admit that I agree with a lot of what Jimmy Dore says. Probably 90% of what he says I agree with, and he's probably one of my favorite shows on YouTube. However, sometimes there are disagreements, and in this case, I want to go over this video where he's talking about the wall and about how people oppose the videos talks about how every congressperson representative along the border opposes the wall. And I have some issues with a few parts in this video, and I want to go over it. So let's take a look at let's start examining what I believe is right in this video and what I believe is wrong. Let's take a look.
So you know how when Trump says this,
my fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
That's weird. That's weird. He thinks there's a security crisis at our southern border because, according to every congressperson who has a district that borders Mexico, they disagree. Every congressperson along the southern border opposes the border wall funding. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? So it's one Republican whose district borders Mexico, and 8 Democrats, but there's some liberal Democrats, conservative Democrats, and corporate Democrats, all around different types of Democrats, and 1 Republican. And guess what? They all oppose it. In fact, they even ran on opposing the border wall, and their districts are right against Mexico. You'd think they would have lost. Well, here, 9 congressional representatives serve the districts that line the 2,000-mile southern border that are men, women, freshman politicians, and Washington veterans. The Democrats among them span liberal ideologies, while one of them is a Republican.
So, we have Jimmy Dore here saying that the Congress representatives along the border oppose the wall, and then he proceeds to say that only one is a Republican, the rest are Democrats. Come on, Jimmy. You are smarter than this. Of course, they're going to oppose the wall because 8 out of 9 are Democrats. That's just common sense. So already I'm having a problem with his arguments so far. Let's continue to take a look at what else he has to say.
And the wall really doesn't help stop illegal immigration because there already is a wall where it's feasible to have walls.
Except that's simply not true. There are places where the wall just simply ends. Just take a look at this piece from MSNBC and how they try to rationalize the idea that we don't need a wall, that they can still, the Border Patrol agents can still do their job without a wall. Just take a look at this, and then I'll discuss it.
It's a double fence, basically.
A double fence. So the primary fence main purpose is to stop the vehicle flow from entering into the United States.
And so this is a secondary?
Yes, the secondary fence is used to deter illegal migrants from entering into the United States.
There are 9 sectors of the Border Patrol along our border with Mexico, and each has its own distinct topography, length, and challenges. Of the 1,989 total miles of border we share with Mexico, some type of fencing protects 702 miles. And agents will tell you, where there's a border, wall or not, some people try to cross it.
Oh, look, there are some people just sticking their heads over right there.
That's it. These are what we call the scouters or smugglers.
So you're sure those people are scouting out in order to do something illegal?
More than likely they are, yes.
So this point right here is the end of the border fence.
Of the primary fence, yes. So that's Mexico on the other side.
That's Mexico?
Yes, correct.
U.S. Mexico?
Yes.
And you're telling me you guys can do what you do without the need to extend the fence here?
Correct. As you can see right up on top of the mountain, we have 2 Border Patrol agents. Our agents patrol constantly, day and night.
So as you can see in the video, that beautiful fence, that short little fence where they were literally sticking their head over this fence. That's how incredible our border security is. As you can see, that fence does not look very effective. It's basically proving the point that we need a more effective wall, a more effective barrier. And this idea, this is what drives me crazy, that as you can see in the video, it ends at a certain point and then there's no more fence or wall, whatever you want to call it. And then this border patrol agent just says that there's no need for it. Okay, here's the thing, this is what drives me crazy. This is common sense. Okay, this is common sense. What is more effective is my question. Having a wall, having a barrier, or not having one? Which is more effective? If I was to tell you that in your home, you wanted to keep your home secure, right? So you have some kind of cameras watching the location, okay? So if I was to ask you, what is more secure for your home? For you to put a fence, a tall fence with maybe spikes or something like that at the top of the fence, is that going to keep you more protected or less protected? Is that going to be more effective or less effective? Is having a wall going to help or is it going to hurt border security? It is a very basic, when you start thinking about it in that sense, it is common sense. It is ridiculous to be against a border wall, because we're not talking about it solving the issue completely. We're talking about it's adding to the security of the border. It doesn't have a downside. It only has an upside. There is absolutely no reason to be against a wall. The only reason you have to be against a wall is because you hate Donald J. Trump. That is literally the only reason you can give. You cannot give another reason. You could try to give a reason that it's taxpayer money, 5.7 billion that he's asking for, but then you also have to consider all the other things that the government spends on. Over $700 billion in military spending, and the Democratic Party cannot give $5.7 billion. It is obvious that the only reason they cannot give it is because they hate Donald Trump. They don't have a rational, a logical reason to oppose it. There is no reason to oppose a wall, okay? You saw in that video, that fence is a joke, okay? A wall is better than no wall. It is that simple. There is no reason to oppose. It is simply added security that's going to help. It's not going to hurt. Do we want to solve the problem of illegal immigration? Yes or not? If your answer is yes, then we do need a wall, because it's going to contribute to the solution of the problem, and we want to make progress. So it is important to get out of this derangement syndrome, this hatred for Trump, that we can't even think clearly. To look at what else Jimmy Dore is saying here that I absolutely disagree with when it comes to this issue.
Natural born Americans commit crimes at a higher rate than immigrants.
The great argument of the Democratic Party that natural citizens commit crime at a higher rate than immigrants. That it's very sneaky, because you notice they never distinguish between, they put everyone together. They just say immigrant. They never distinguish between legal immigration and illegal immigration. You see, Trump never said that he's against legal immigration. He continuously says he's against illegal immigration. But you notice how clever, how sneaky progressive Democrats and progressives, the whole Democratic Party seems to be when it comes to this issue. They just mention the word immigrant. They add together legal and illegal. They don't make a distinction between the two. It's a very clever argument, but it's an argument that we cannot let them get away with. We're not talking about legal immigrant crime. We're talking about illegal immigrant crime. Illegal immigrant crime. First of all, even if it's true that they commit crimes at a lower rate, okay, even if I grant them that, the crime rate should be zero. Any amount of crime that comes from illegal immigration is completely unnecessary because these people are not supposed to be here in the first place. It is a ridiculous thing to say that because they commit less crime, illegal immigrants, then we should be okay with it. No, we shouldn't. Okay? Just because that is still a problem that needs to be dealt with. Okay? Even granting the idea, the concept that natural born citizens committed more crime, it doesn't make it okay all of a sudden for illegal immigrants to be in this country and commit crimes because they shouldn't have been here in the first place. This is another ridiculous argument.
It's not like the Democrats are saying we don't need border security, which is what Trump wants to frame it as. Everybody's for border security. He also said he wanted Congress to approve a comprehensive approach to border security, focusing specifically on improving ports of entry, which Mr. Trump has also said he supports. So ports of entry means, like if you come through from Mexico to the United States through Tijuana, there's those booths and those gates. That's a port of entry.
Well, no one is saying that we shouldn't fix the issue of illegal immigration and drug smuggling through the ports of entry. No one is saying that. That is a problem as well. But also, we have a problem with illegal crossings where there is no wall. Can we all agree that we can look at multiple problems? We don't have to ignore one problem to focus on another one. We can deal with every problem at once.
So now all you jackoffs who are being played by Trump, which you're being played by Trump. It's time you start thinking, using your brain to think about this situation instead of your emotion. Because this is like the minimum wage. People react emotionally to it. They don't react with their brains about it. They don't they don't critically think about it. They react emotionally. People have an emotional reaction to when Trump demagogues against Mexicans and Hispanics and illegal immigrants.
It's funny to take a look at this case of projection. You are projecting what the Democratic Party is suffering from on the rest of us. You're calling the people that support the wall emotional? Are you serious? We all know that the emotional people are the ones that simply hate Trump and are against everything he proposes. Regardless of whether it's right or wrong, they simply hate him and they're going to oppose it no matter what. Now that's being emotional. Wanting a wall is rational. Jimmy Dore, you are suffering from projection, okay? Your side on this issue is the one being emotional because it makes perfect sense to want to have a barrier, okay? It makes perfect. What is illogical is not to want to have one. It's illogical for you not to want to have a wall because it's only going to help the problem. It's not going to solve it, but it's going to be another tool that we need to implement. It is rational. It is logical. The emotional one is you.
Other groups, such as the Center for Migration Studies, have similarly estimated that visa overstays account for about 2/3 of the total number of people joining the undocumented population in any given year. 2/3.
I want to end it because it's very obvious. Here's the deal, okay? I agree. Okay? I grant him that number that 2/3 approximately of undocumented immigrants are people in any given year that overstay their visas, okay? But this is the problem that I have with this kind of thinking. Okay, that's not an argument. See, this is what progressives, this is what Democrats that are against the wall always resort to. You mention a problem, and this is their response. Instead of being able to argue against the wall, their response is always, look over there. There's another problem right there. Take a look at that problem. What about that problem? Instead of being able to defend the fact that instead of being able to actually argue against the wall and why we shouldn't have one, they'll simply mention another problem. They'll muddy the waters. Okay, this is a very, very classic technique used by people that do not have an argument. They cannot attack the argument head on. They simply want to bring up another subject. Okay, just because they're 2/3 are overstaying their visa doesn't mean the other problem stops existing. Okay, if you have liver damage, okay, if you have liver damage, and then you have your lungs are damaged as well, simply saying that if someone points out the fact that you have liver damage, your response is yes, but let's not focus on that. Let's actually, but look at my lungs. That's what the real issue is. No, they're both an issue. They both need to be resolved. Simply mentioning another problem doesn't mean that the other problem stops existing. Okay, if we want a real solution, okay, if we want a real solution, we need to attack every single issue. Overstaying visas is a problem. We need to attack that. We need immigration reform. The ports of entry are an issue. We need to resolve those. But isn't it interesting that Democrats want to solve ports of entry and they want to bring up the overstaying of visas, but somehow they don't want to focus on illegal immigration coming in through places where there is no wall? Isn't that very suspicious that they do not want to focus on that issue? Why can't they simply add that issue to all the other problems we need to solve? I know the answer. It's simply because they hate Trump. They have no argument against a wall. It's plain and simple. They have no way to defend their position. And the more the government shutdown goes on, the more terrible the Democrats are looking, because they're just simply acting like children. They know a wall is not going to hurt. It's simply going to help. And they're not giving in simply because they hate Trump. They're not interested in doing right. They just simply want to be partisan hacks. And that's the real answer. The wall is going to help. It's not going to solve the problem, but it's going to help. And let's not be partisan hacks and only mentioning the overstaying of visas and ports of entry and not mentioning the other aspect of illegal immigrations where people are crossing where there is no effective barrier. You're simply being a partisan hack if you're not willing to look at the whole picture.